Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the increasing number of wills and inheritances that are being disputed. Now, I'm in an age where I'm in an age group where the parents are sort of dying off, and the children or the siblings are squabbling and disputing the will, and it's interesting sort of the lengths that people go to, and how family members, brothers and sisters and so on, are really keen to disinherit their other relatives through any means necessary, and all sorts of deceits and subterfuges and lies and deceptions and what are employed in doing this. The message certainly that I'm seeing is, do not trust, no matter how many you think they're trustworthy, do not trust your brother or sister. Make sure you verify what's being said, or that's certainly the message that I'm taking away from what I'm seeing. Now, some of these people, and unfortunately I'm not among them, the parents, the house that they bought for $40,000 in 1975 is now worth like $4 or $5 million or something like that. But so there's a fair bit to go around. But I'll use a couple of examples here. There's one where the dad died not that long ago actually, and the mother seemed to be doing okay, and then up and died. Probably not that long after really, and much to everyone's surprise. Now there's only two kids, a brother and a sister, and the guy who I know better is he had this sort of he had sort of an odd relationship, because I've known him since we were kids. He had an odd relationship with the mother, and she seemed to always be trying to bait him and get him to react in some way, and so always was trying to needle him and that sort of thing. Even as a kid, I thought, what's going on here? That's kind of really strange. And if I'd be, say, over at their place for lunch, she'd constantly be sort of scratching at him, and I thought it was quite odd behaviour. I didn't understand that. So anyway, as he got older and he was less inclined to put up with it, and I don't know, 10 years ago or however long ago it was, he sort of said to me, look, you need to stop behaving this way and talking to me like that, and I can't be bothered to come over and see you if you're going to behave that way. And I wasn't there to see this, but he says that she said, well, I don't care if I never see you again anyway. And families, and they're trying to do a sort of a tit for tat to hurt each other. And I don't know why families do that, but they do. But so he's like, well, screw you then, and he says screw you. And she says, I don't care, and that's it. And they kind of didn't really talk, I think, for quite some years. Now the sister probably didn't stay close, but certainly was closer than he was. But and this is I discovered later. But the sister convinces the mother that her brother, Billy Bob, he doesn't want anything from he's doing really well. He doesn't want anything from the estate when the mother dies, or when the parents die, when the mother dies, and so the mother can give everything to her, the sister, and that's kind of okay, and let leave everything to me in the will, and we're all good to go. Now he discovers this deception later, but at the time he's just mentions to me in passing that she's making sure he's going to be looked out for, and that he's going to get half the estate and all this sort of thing. So she's telling him that. She's also telling him that the father took out lots of loans before he died, and this, and so there's not really going to be much of the estate, even though the house is worth $4 million, because there are so many loans against it, and because the mother's gone into assisted living, which is really expensive, and so that really there's nothing, they're not worth anything. So there's only going to be chunk change anyway. So telling the brother Billy Bob not to worry about it. Now, as it turns out, this was a gross and grand and breathtaking deception by the sister. she's lied all the way along. The mother's bought it and rewritten the will to include only the sister, and written the guy, the son Billy Bob, out of the will. So he's not going to get anything, not a penny. But meanwhile, the sister's telling him, everything's okay, don't worry about it. I've got everything in hand. I'm looking out for you. I'm your sister. I love you, and all this sort of stuff. And I wouldn't have called him particularly close, but he trusts her, and he trusts that sort of your own blood won't act treacherously towards you. But in fact, she did, and so he discovered quite by accident when one of the the nurses, or whoever it was, one of the attendants in the assisted living who was looking after that area where the mother was left, I think it was $30,000 in the mother's will. Now, according to the sister, the whole estate was barely worth $50,000. So if this attendant was getting $30,000, then that was like seriously generous. So that he mentioned this to me. He was, well, hey, that doesn't add up. So he started sort of putting some work into it and then demanding copies of the will. Sister refused to give it to him. Then the sister, next thing you know, the sister said, well, you want to talk to me, you can talk to my lawyer. And so he gets a lawyer, and that's the stuff. So he finds out that the sisters gypped him and deceived him and lied to him all along, and somehow gypped the mother. I can't believe them. I knew the mother, and I couldn't call her a very pleasant person. She was certainly quite treacherous and very underhanded in how she went about things. But she must have known that the sister was telling her lies about the brother. Knowing that the mother, as I do, I think she'd have sort of somehow derived some sort of perverse delight over the idea that the kids be bickering when she was gone. The last thing she would have wanted was a smooth and harmonious outcome where everyone was getting on. It just wasn't in her playbook. So I figure she went along with it just because she knew it was an act of deceit that would cause problems after she was dead. So anyway, so they go to court. Now the court battle was pretty sort of vicious. It was the lawyers' fees were over $300,000, in fact, close to $400,000, given all the pushing and the shoving. And her argument was, well, he hasn't seen the mother for 10 years, or saw her only once in 10 years, whatever it was, whereas I saw her sort of every 6 weeks or whatever it was. So the sister was taking the view that, well, he shouldn't get it, but her view was he shouldn't get a penny, not a penny. So his own sister is determined to make sure, and out of close to $4 million, by the way, that she should get it all and he should get nothing. It's hard to believe that your own family would be like that, but there it is. And he was quite shocked, actually, when he was telling me about it, almost shell shocked. You could see the look on his face. He just couldn't come to grips with how his sister had screwed him and screwed him over, and had been telling him all those lies, and that he believed her and trusted her and that sort of stuff. So I think it's the betrayal of trust was probably as much as anything what shocked him, but nonetheless, and I mean, he got a decent chunk of change out of it in the end. But the sister, who I didn't know as well, she viewed this as a great victory. Her position was, well, if I'd had to share it with him 50-50, we'd have got $2 million each, for example, or about $2 million each. So after all the legal fees, and he got his piece of change, she's made $2.3 million. So she's saying, well, I'm $300,000 up. So I've won. I did the right thing by screwing him, because I made more money more money in my pocket than if I split it with him evenly. Don't you have any qualms about screwing your own brother? No. Why should I? I've always hated him. Why'd you always hate him? No, you didn't. I remember seeing you guys together. You didn't hate him. What are you talking about? So when money, especially in those quantities, comes along, it can be a big thing. There's another guy. There's three brothers. Okay, so one of the brothers sort of stayed close to his mother, whereas the other two didn't. So one of them lived overseas, but and the other lived kind of interstate. So whereas only one brother sort of lived nearby, and that was the brother that stayed closer. Now, this one brother decided to screw the other two brothers out of their inheritance, and similar sort of format, really, in a lot of ways to the previous one I just mentioned. So he did this, and I was talking to him about it and said, well, why did you do it? I mean, why screw your own brothers over? I mean, what would possibly possess you to do that? I mean, just the treachery factor alone should be. And he was unabashed. He sort of looked at me, shrugged his shoulders, and said, I wanted the money. I wanted the money. That was it. I wanted it, and I don't care about them. I wanted it. They can go and whistle Dixie. I wanted the money, and well, don't you know? And one of the brothers was, had some serious health issues and hadn't been able to work for a while. So he really would have needed that money. Could have used it to good effect. Don't care. Well, don't you think he should have had? No, don't care. I wanted the money. End of story. And so, but again, there was an elaborate sort of web of treachery and deception and lies and deceits that went into it. So I'm seeing this more and more, and I guess it's probably more pronounced in big Western cities now because of the mass investment in real estate from Chinese and Indian and other investors has artificially pumped up the price of real estate. Guys like BlackRock buying up vast swathes of real estate. So if you look at house prices have increased by more than 3 times the rate of inflation. So houses that are worth selling for $3 million today or $4 million today would be, say, $1 million, a little bit over $1 million in reality in the real world. So this means that residential real estate now is worth gazillions, and so people are bickering over it. I'll just sort of close out here with a third example. Here's 3 children again. There's 2 brothers and a daughter here, and so we're having dinner with the parents, who are a bit older than us, and the kids are in their 40s and late 30s, early 40s. And the first one to arrive, the kids are coming in for some, I can't remember what the event was, but it was something, and the kids are all coming over. So there was the daughter arrives first, and she, while we're there, so she's unabashed about it. While we're there, she says, "Hey, mum and dad," I'll paraphrase it here. Hey, mum and dad, the parents owned a number of properties. They're quite well off. They had one waterfront property worth millions, and so she wanted that waterfront property. There was some shitbox house in the mountains somewhere, really rustic that wasn't worth that much, but the jewel in the crown was this waterfront property with views out over the ocean and so on. And so she wanted that. So she starts with saying, "Oh, just before the others arrive, mum and dad, can you please give me that? I want that apartment. Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack, they don't deserve it. I deserve it. I want to get that apartment. But once I know that I'm going to get it, I'll divorce my asshole husband and get as much as I can out of him, and then I'll get that place after the divorce has gone through. And so I need to get the sort of timing right of when you put it in the will and da 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 da. But I need that. Can you promise me you'll give it to me? And no, don't give it to Billy Bob. But I hate Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack. He's a dirty, rotten, no good so and so. And so she's absolutely putting shit on both her brothers and pleading with the parents to the point where she's pretending to cry and sort of thing. And the embarrassment, I mean, because we're sitting there, we're sitting at the same table while she's doing this. She doesn't give a fuck. She's so focused on getting this outcome that she just doesn't. She'll embarrass herself, embarrass her parents, doesn't care. doesn't care. She's out to get it. Now both the boys were much different. They thought that everything should be sold up if the parents died. Everything should be sold up and then divided 3 ways equally. And both the brothers were of that opinion, but the girl wanted well over 3/4 of the whole value of the estate to herself, but for personal and quite selfish reasons. She wants that so she can leave her husband, but make sure that she's financially well taken care of through this inheritance, but doesn't want the inheritance to come in too early, because then the husband that she wants to make an ex-husband, the ex-husband wouldn't have to pay her as much, because there'd be this apartment in the overall assets to be split up on the divorce. So she's trying to position it so she gets 2 bites of the cherry. She gets the free house off the husband, and she inherits the waterfront property. I mean, the scheming that was going into it. Now, on top of that, she was devising methods. Well, don't tell Billy Bob the place is worth that much. To tell him this and tell him that. Quite even was scripting lies and deceptive utterances, giving them to the parents to say, well, say these things, deceive my brothers in this way, deceive your own sons in this way, just so I can get more. And I was gobsmacked just looking at it. But it shows how much shows that the lust for ill-gotten gains can turn the heads of a lot of people. Now, there's been a number of articles floating around recently where people are so disgusted with their children that they're leaving leaving in their will, they're leaving their assets and so on to charities rather than give it to the children. So, and based on some of the things I'm seeing, I'm hardly surprised if you see your children squabbling like that over these assets, then and you're not even dead, the body's not even cold, and you're not even, doesn't look like you're going to die any day soon. Different when you're on a deathbed, I guess, but not otherwise. And it makes me wonder about anything I might leave behind. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.